Welcome to Separation Season Athletics Masterclass. Today we'll be going over lower back pain relief. It's going to be about mobility, strength, and recovery essentials. So, who's this for? It's for athletes, desk workers, or anybody who's really dealing with lower back pain. My name is Fernando. I'm a personal trainer working out in Chicago and online, and I help clients reduce pain, rebuild strength, and keep them moving without fear of injury. So now let's go over the three pillars for lower back pain. First, we need a very strong foundation. Without a strong foundation, we can't have sustainable pain relief. Okay, so first it starts with flexibility, strength, and recovery. Each one of these are very important. As you can see, flexibility and strength are almost combined together. This is called mobility, being strong in ranges of motion that are important in everyday life, but then also can be in specific circumstances strong in as well, which will help you not get lower back pain, such as twisting or turning or bending down quickly in order to get something off the floor. That's usually when people get lower back pain. But then also it can be caused just from overall chronic posture and things like that. So kind of working on the flexibility part and the strength part will help both of them. So as you can see with this little diagram, everybody else is flexible, but the guy with lower back pain is not flexible. Therefore, there's some correlation. Same thing with strength. Usually somebody who is poor flexibility also and lower back pain also has a weak core. But then also recovery. What can we do to help recover these muscles, decrease inflammation, and then overall help the body become stronger? So first, let's talk about flexibility. First, we have to free the hips up to protect the back. So some of the major things for lower back pain are going to be the hip flexors, the erector muscles, and the piriformis. Let's go into those. First, the hip flexors are going to be, majority is going to be the psoas major. This is a hip flexor muscle that, as you can see, attaches into the thigh. So this is important for hip flexion. Okay. And we'll get into all these why they're important later, but we're just going over a little bit of anatomy. Next, what's going to be important is the piriformis, a deep, deep hip muscle that is connected right to the pelvis and also to the thigh. And then finally, the erector muscles. These are the muscles in the lower back that help you stay upright and erect with great posture. So what does sitting do? Well, sitting tightens these muscles. As you can see in this diagram, his knees are bent, therefore putting major tension on the psoas muscle compared to here as well. Let's say majority of people sit like this. Over time, they begin to slouch because that becomes tiring because the erector muscles are holding you upright. But then as you begin to slouch, look at this. Now the lower back is getting a lot of tension. The muscles there are starting to lengthen and get a lot of pressure on them. But then also, look here. Now that the pelvis is in a different position, now the piriformis is much more likely to become tight. As you can see here again, the hip flexor muscles here, lower back, and the piriformis all are affected by sitting, whether you have good posture or if your posture starts to waver, there's going to be a compensation in one of these areas. So that doesn't mean don't sit. That just means we have to improve our flexibility. So here's some flexibility protocols we can do. Two different options we have: dynamic pre-training, just one set of 60 seconds, moving back and forth in a dynamic way, or static post-training, 3 sets of 30 seconds per side, pausing at the bottom range of the motion. So here are some of the major ones. We have the 90-90. What's going to be important for this is in the dynamic one, we have a kickstand with our hands, and we're going to windshield wiper back and forth with our knees. If we're doing the static hold, that just means we're going to hold this position, turn our chest towards our front leg we're trying to stretch, which will put more stretch on the piriformis. For the hip flexor, this is called a couch stretch. What's going to be very important is one, making sure you have a solid setup. This can be a couch, a bench, kind of anything that's comfortable enough where it doesn't put too much tension on your ankle. What's going to be important next is not overarching the back, but having a pretty neutral spine and keeping the glutes locked in and engaged, which will help stretch all of the hip flexor right here. So we can do this either statically, just like how he's doing now, or we can do this dynamically. Bringing this foot a little closer, we can go into a small bit of a lunge back and forth. And then finally, for the lower back, we have a supine knee side to side raise. So basically, we're on our back, arms are to our side, palms are going to be down so we don't have a lot of stretch on our pecs. And what's going to be important is we're just going side to side in the dynamic one, and in the static one, we're just holding one side for 30 seconds. What's going to be important is that we're keeping the shoulders pinned down. If the shoulders are coming up when they're going to one side, we don't want that, because then that's compensation that we don't want, and we actually want to keep our shoulders pinned down so we get a stretch in the lower back. So there are 3 stretches for the hip flexor, the piriformis, and the lower back. You can either do them pre-training or you can do them post-training for static holds. Okay, we need to develop some flexibility so then we can counteract all the hours of sitting. Next, we have to build the muscles that guard your spine for strength. Okay, so some of the major things are going to be the core, right? Especially the upper core and the lower core. We have also the lower back, the erector spinae that we talked about before, and also the psoas muscles, but then also some muscles in the glutes and in the hips, and also the QL, the quadratus lumborum, which is a deep muscle right next to the spine. And by balancing and strengthening all of these, we will have better posture overall for longer, especially sitting, standing, anything like that. So by strengthening them, we are allowing our posture to be better, so then we don't have compensations. And the improved flexibility will help counteract any compensations we have. So let's go over them. First, we have the leg raise. This is going to work our hip flexor, okay? We're going to do one leg at a time, laying on our back. As you can see, he has his hands under his butt. That's going to be to support the lower back. One of the biggest, most important things is you do not want to arch in the lower back, okay? So you want to make sure that lower back is on the floor. That means you're properly engaging the core. If you don't do that, then you're going to likely feel tension in the lower back. That's why having your hands under you can be important for some people. Next, we're going to go over the side bend. It's going to be important for this it's going to be hit the QL, which is that deep lower back muscle we talked about. Very simple. One of the biggest things is making sure our elbow is to the ceiling, our chest is up, and we're getting a good stretch on the bottom, nice and controlled and up. Okay? For the lower back and glutes, we have the seated good morning and the front step up. What's going to be important for this is that our thigh and knee is going to be 90 degrees. So making sure the height of the bench or whatever you're using, whatever you're sitting on, will allow you to be parallel to the floor, your thighs, okay? Then we have the dumbbells. And what we're going to be doing is we're first standing upright, and then we're lowering down by pushing our chest up and keeping our hips back, okay? Starting a hip hinge movement, going back and forth from that. Next is going to be the front step up. This is going to be important to hit all the hip muscles that are on the outside, like the piriformis, the glutes, the glute medius, things like that. So basically what we're going to be doing is a single leg step up And the major thing is going to be that our non-working leg right here is not assisting in any way. So we want the front leg doing all the work. This means that you have to keep that leg straight and your toe up. Okay. So basically, you almost don't want any movement in the back leg so the front leg can do all the work. You should be feeling this in your quad a little bit, but also in your glute and all the stabilizing hip muscles. And finally, sometimes we need to be able to coordinate all these core muscles together. And this is when things like static holds come into place, such as the plank or the Pallof press. What's going to be important is that if you cannot do the plank or if it's too easy, then we want to do a Pallof press. Either way, these are going to help coordination within the core in an isometric way, meaning that they're a static hold. Okay. One of the biggest issues with the Pallof press is that the cable is set too high, so the shoulders are taking a lot of the load. What you want to do is have the cable low enough where your hands are right by your sternum or right under your pecs. Okay. Once we do that, that means that when we press out, we're using our core and less of our shoulders. And for the plank, we want to make sure that everything is nice and solid and there is no compensation in the hips from one side to the other, or a hip dip, which will put excess tension on the lower back. Okay. So here are the exercises. We have the leg raise unilateral for the hip flexor, the QL side bend for the QL, the seated good morning, which will help us get our hamstrings, our glutes, and our lower back, kind of all the erector muscles that we need for a strong, healthy back. We have the plank and the Pallof press to coordinate all these core muscles together. And then also the front step up to hit any small hip muscles and stabilizers in the hip, which will overall help strength for the lower back. So that's strength for the lower back. Next, let's go over to recovery. Okay, recovery, the missing link to progress. One of the most important things, especially with any injury, is optimizing your recovery, specifically by how well you deal with inflammation. One of the biggest things that is a stressor is food, because whatever we eat, sometimes we can be intolerant to, and we can create excess inflammation. Excess inflammation is going to make our joints more achy, and in this case, our lower back. Okay? So, what do we have here? Here we have kind of all the superfoods for anti-inflammation. These are all high in fats and antioxidants. We have salmon, we have berries, ginger, turmeric, olive oil, avocado, healthy fats, nuts. All these things are going to be very important to help decrease inflammation and also promote better recovery. So when we're picking foods, we want to look for berries. They have very thin skin. They have a lot of antioxidants. So we have blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, berries like that, cherries even. Omega-3s in fish are going to be very important to help the ratio of omega-3 compared to omega-6. When that ratio is off and when there's more omega-6, which is, very popular in things like, seed oils and a lot of processed foods and a lot of like vegetable oils, that's when the ratio gets thrown off and therefore more inflammation ensues. That's why it's going to be important to eat meats that have high levels of omega-3 in them. What's also going to be important is changing all your, vegetable oils and things like that for olive oil or butter. But all these antioxidant foods and healthy fats are going to be good for promoting decreases in inflammation. Let's go over to some supplements now. You can eat a lot of the food, but sometimes you won't be able to get the right amount of nutrients. So that's what supplements come in. Specifically something like omega-3s, like how we talked about in fish. This is fish oil right here. And curcumin. These are going to be two very important things for just decrease in inflammation just in general throughout the whole body. By decreased inflammation, less joint pain. Okay. So if you're gonna have an omega-3, you want to look for something that has EPA and DHA in it, and you want them both to be, high levels of it. Specifically, EPA is going to be for the muscles, DHA is going to be for the brain. Next, curcumin is going to be important as well. Curcumin is going to be important because it's a form of turmeric. One of the biggest things is you just want to make sure that it has some type of black pepper so you can absorb it properly. Next, magnesium glycinate. Magnesium is used in over 300 reactions in the body. So by taking magnesium, it'll help relax the muscles more, which could be the source of your tension in your lower back. And then let's talk about hydration, specifically with electrolytes. So electrolytes are going to help one, stay more hydrated just throughout the day. Just by drinking more water, because it's flavored, it's going to help you make sure there's more fluid in your joints, which will help not have as much tension and friction. Okay. Again, also, there might be some issues with muscle tension. That might be why you have pain, specifically in your lower back. So what's going to be important is hydrating to make sure they're as fluid and as malleable as they can be, not stiff and tight because they're dehydrated. Lastly, let's talk about some recovery techniques. Sauna and red light are going to be very important. Sauna is going to help increase growth hormone, which is going to help basically decrease inflammation and basically increase overall recovery and feeling better. Red light is going to be important as well because that's another way to decrease inflammation. Basically, these red panels are healing light that you have to have shine on your skin. And when it's shined on your skin, the receptors in your cells basically are able to produce more energy. Therefore, when you're producing more energy, you can recover faster. Lastly, this might be a little more on the spiritual side, but a lot of people with lower back pain can also be connected to kind of loss of community or not being grounded. So what's going to be very important is, taking some time to be outside, whether that be actually grounding within the dirt physically or just taking a walk, getting sunlight, things like that will all help and not hurt your recovery process, mentally, spiritually, and physically. So that's the end of our masterclass. If you're interested in personal coaching to help rehab your injury or prevent one from occurring, fill out the form below. This has been Fernando from Separation Season Athletics. We're located in Chicago, and we also do in-person and online coaching. Hope to talk to you soon.